All right, so I am reviewing Married to Medicine right now for you guys. And in the words of Celie from The Color Purple, until you do right by me, nothing ever good is going to come from it. That's what Dr. Heavenly is saying about Lisa. And evidently, it is not looking good for Lisa. Talk to you in a little bit. Hey guys, this is Shawn Sandridge, and I am here. I am back finally from a technical hiatus to do Married to Medicine season 4 episode 13. The devil is busy. And yes, on this episode the devil was very busy. So before I go any further, I just want you to know that I am very happy to be back on camera to see you guys, and that I'm a little hyped because yes, I am going out of town, but I wanted to get these reviews out because I am a little late and I'm catching up. So I'm wearing my favorite red lipstick and my red scarf for National Go Wear Red Day for women awareness on heart disease. So know your numbers and get yourself checked. So I thought this was an okay episode. It was slow build up, but it was good. So let's just get into it. So Toya and Dr. Eugene are meeting with their accountant, and what happens is that because you have to pay the IRS back, you have to submit a budget, your expenses, what your monthly expenses are, and what you can pay back. So Toya has submitted to the accountant what she thought was reasonable, and the accountant was no joke. And that is good because she's kind of went over her husband's head, and her husband has given her a lot of leeway, and it's gotten them in a 6-figure debt to the IRS, which is no joke. Trust me. So he wasn't smiling. He wasn't kidding. He's like, your expenses are too much to be explaining to the IRS why you can't pay back what you can pay back. So Toya's talking about, you know, when we out, we turn up, we popping bottles and all this. And Dr. Eugene is like, yeah, no popping bottles. And I'm willing to give up my Porsche to do what we have to do. And you know what? I know a lot of people call Toya tacky Toya, but you know, there's something about the relationship that does work. And you know, there's a saying that I learned from going to my professional seminars, and this was a saying: every kite needs a string. And what it really is saying is that you're always going to have one person in the relationship that is got big dreams and, you know, got all these grandiose ideas, and that's great, but there needs to be a string to kind of keep that person steady, keeps them pulled down a little bit. And so Dr. Eugene is the string to Toya being the kite. And you know, Dr. Eugene, even though he's given her a lot of leeway, he is practical, and that's really important. And he's like, you know what? And it's true. When you are in a financial dire straits, you have to examine everything that you own is disposable. You have to, you know, I mean, a 6-figure debt to the IRS is no joke. And you have to evaluate everything that you have that is of price next to your kids, or well, with the exception of your kids, and go, that ring I own, that jewelry I own, that car I own, that house I own, you know, all the things that are materialistic that you are willing to evaluate and say, I can give it away. Because you know what? He is a doctor, and he has a skill, he has a profession. He can make that money back, but he can't make that money back if you're not willing to strip down. And he was realistic. 2 years, and then we can come back stronger than ever. And if they do it right, and they take the accountant's advice to heart, and they really do what they have to do, they're going to be better than ever. So I'm hopeful. But yeah, I think for Toya needs to read a book that I highly suggest, and that is The Millionaire Next Door. Very, very good book. So Lisa is with Mariah, and Lisa is her only friend, and she's still shading her, saying that she's boring. So she's like, Lisa doesn't drink. She likes a good cappuccino with lots of sugar. I fall asleep and wake back up. Mariah, now you know if that's your only friend, you should not talk about her like that. So they're talking about the event because you know the conference is supposed to be happening, and she said that this was her event uh, that was 2 years in the works. Now you know Bravo is going to show all these receipts. Why are you lying? Dr. Darren is rubbing off on you, telling all these stories, and you can't keep them straight. So Heavenly decided that she decided she wasn't going to have them pick a side. That, you know what, she's trying to be a better person. And, you know, last episode she said, you know, you got to say if you're with me or with her. And she's like, you know what, you guys do what you got to do. So let's just go to the venue. You know, like there was I think Entertainment Tonight, one of those shows used to have those things with like man on the street and say who wore it best. So we're going to go to the conferences. Who did it best? So we're at Dr. Heavenly's venue. It looks really nice. It looks like it's going to be really hype. And then we go to Lisa, and evidently Lisa scrambled and did it a Lisa and Dr. Darren event because that was what was the headline face on the billboard there. It looks a little scarce in people, but she was worried because she's used to people like waiting in line to come in to the venue, and there wasn't anybody there. But it was a beautiful looking venue. It was very Valentine's Day, red, love, all that kind of stuff. But she's nervous. So you know, Dr. Jackie took it a good time to do a dig at Lisa, saying that, you know what, Dr. Heavenly, even though her and Dr. Heavenly have had their issues and have their little squabbles, she says that Dr. Heavenly has always backed her up on her events. And so, you know, Dr. Jackie's still feeling some kind of way that she just you know, bailed out on her with her lookbook situation for the lookbook for breast cancer. So she was more than happy to pick a side because she wasn't feeling Lisa. So Lisa's venue is looking a little dry and spacious, but you know what, when you look at the intros, Lisa was very, even when they go back to her old conference, she was far more hyped and people were far more hyped, and this was not looking good. Dr. Heavenly's venue, the crowd was engaging, she was engaging, she had high energy, and it really showed like she put out what she wanted, and the crowd reflected back what she was putting out, and they were very lively and very engaged. And you know what, Dr. Heavenly says, I have credentials, you know, this is my passion, and I got my certification to be a relationship coach and all that stuff. So I thought it was funny that, I don't know, because I know that Dr. Heavenly was there to promote the event that both her and Lisa was supposed to have. And even though it was supposed to be a couples thing, on Lisa's venue, there weren't a lot of couples. I didn't see that. It was so funny because they would go back and forth between the different events, between Lisa and Dr. Heavenly's events, and you know, they had the little, you know, experts. And it was so funny to hear Dr. Jackie talking about, you know, the erogenous zones, and looking at Cecil's face, and he's like grinning like he's an 8th grader. I thought it was cute. And to be honest, while I was watching Lisa's conference, I was yawning. It seemed bored, and they seemed bored. The people in the audience seemed bored. Lisa decides to have a breakout session, that the women would have their own little breakout session and the men would have their breakout session. And to be honest, that was like the most hyped part of the whole thing with Lisa's event, because Dr. Darren kind of was the facilitator with the men, and it was like being in the barber shop. Now, a long time ago, I kept my hair really, really short, like a teeny weeny afro. And I would go to the barber shop and get my shape up, every 2 weeks or so. And after a while, when you, even if you are the woman, it's like you got to have a thick skin, which was fine. But you hear a lot when you're at the barber shop, just like you hear a lot at the beauty salon, but you hear a lot at the barber shop. So it was very much the same kind of energy when Dr. Darren. Actually, I thought Dr. Darren was a far better facilitator than Lisa was. Like, he could have done the whole thing. And he once again reiterated, this was a very good question. He says, do you ever have an issue where you don't feel like you're being heard? And I thought, wow, you led with a question that is very, very telling, because he brought up the issue about, or the situation about him and his wife having a baby, and he presented it saying that she said, we're having a baby. And he's like, what? And he reiterated again that this wasn't like the ideal situation. And he still, in the confessional, could not be honest with his wife, which is irritating. Can I just say, he's irritating? But I thought that was funny. But what the funniest thing is when they had the pastor there, and he was saying that my wife used to be, he says, the women today, they just strong. And he says, my wife, when we were young and full of life and just had, no idea what was ahead of us, she was so submissive. And he says, now she like one of you guys' wives. And I was like, oh my God, she's going to see this on TV on the replay. I hope you're okay with how you're describing your first lady. So I thought that was funny. But based on the editing, it seems like Dr. Heavenly won in the Who Did It Best event. And afterwards, she had food and music. And women like good food and some good music. So I would have went to Dr. Heavenly's event based on what we saw. So Dr. Heavenly, no. Yeah, Dr. Heavenly is there, and I think with Quad and Dr. Simone, and she gets a picture of Lisa's event. Ooh, shady. Now, who was the mole that was taking a picture of Lisa's event? Now, this is something that I thought was funny, because they broke into topics, and Lisa was saying when she had the breakout session with the women about women and sisterhood, and that she really made this an issue, a situation about her. And then Mariah was saying nobody, they really wasn't with you. And then Mariah started to take digs, saying that Dr. Heavenly is like Quad, that she got a hold of Lisa's contacts and got her foot in the door, but really she didn't want to learn from you. She just wanted to get her foot in and take over. And I didn't get that. I didn't get that. Mariah, that was to me a bit of a stretch to make the analogy that Quad and Dr. Heavenly is the same thing, because we're watching, as a viewer, we're watching, and we're not seeing it the way Lisa is seeing it. Now, I'm sure there's some people that are for Lisa, but the way I'm seeing it, I'm not seeing it the way everyone else is seeing it. I'm not seeing it the way Mariah is seeing it. I'm seeing it that, Lisa, you were shady and you wasn't forthcoming. And I know one thing, if you're telling me that I'm putting half of my money in, we're partners. I mean, just by default, we're partners. Anyway, so, there was a good part where Dr. Jackie is talking about sex. She's talking about sex, and her and Dr. Simone are talking about stuff and sex and anal sex and all that stuff, and what is practical about romance and all that stuff. And Dr. Heavenly just broke it down like a sister girl would. She's like, listen, if you don't take care of your man, somebody will. I don't care how tired you are. And I have to say, Dr. Heavenly, preach on. Sometimes as women, You got to take one for the team. You got to take one for the team, no matter how you feeling. And I will say this, women are very much in their head. You know, there was a saying out there, and I do believe it to be true. They say that a woman's brain is her biggest sexual organ, and I do agree that's true. There's also a saying that men are like microwaves and women are like convection ovens, and that if you really want to get a woman ready for something that, especially a woman who's working, managing children and all that stuff, and she's got a lot on her plate, that you really got to put that seed in her head. And more often than not, we may not feel like it, but sometimes you got to do things when you don't feel like it, because eventually you realize you really needed that intimacy with your spouse, and that, you know what, you really did need it more than you thought. So, Dr. Heavenly gave Dr. Jackie some practical advice, girl. You pay attention. So, oh, and for Dr. Jackie, I wrote down to Dr. Jackie, since I gave Toya some advice on what she should read. Dr. Jackie needs to read The 5 Love Languages. I live by that book. I suggest anybody that's having any kind of concerns. It works with your children. They have the 5 love languages of children, but the original book is the 5 love languages, and you can just read that book and figure out people in your life, what kind of language they need, and you'll find out your own love language. It's a very good book. So, I was watching Dr. Jackie, and I remember Cemented was saying how Dr. Jackie, the camera doesn't do her any justice. And I do think that that is true, because there are glimpses when you see Dr. Jackie, and she is a drop dead gorgeous woman, and that was really reflective of tonight. So, she is taking Dr. Heavenly's advice, but I'm going to go to my notes because I wanted to say some things. And that is that I want to give everybody a tip here. And I think this is very reflective of Dr. Jackie and Curtis's relationship. When you do not have your needs met in intimacy, the things that are going on in your life, it is 90% of the problem. Okay? When you have intimacy in your life and you are struck with life's problems, it only becomes 10% of an issue. So, and that's to say, when you are, and intimacy can mean sex, but if you are connected and you feel connected with your partner, then the things that are going on in your life is only really 10% of an issue. When you are not getting your needs met and you're not connecting, and there's a disconnect, and there's no intimacy, then all of life issues is 90% of the problem. So I think this is really reflective of what's going on between her and Curtis. And so she decides that she's taking Dr. Heavenly's advice. She heard her, and so she's trying to bring some romance. So she's got the lights and the ambiance, and she got someone to do some home cooking and make it all romantical, as Forrest Rocks would say. She's gonna make the whole area romantical, and then Curtis goes in, and you could see his face light up. I mean, you could see the look on his face, and she was there, and she put on a dress that he had bought for her. I mean, he lit up when he saw her in this dress. He had bought her 16 years ago, and they sat, and it was just him and her, and they were talking. They weren't talking about work. She didn't have a computer anywhere near, and it was like all about him. And he really, really, really enjoyed it. And she did a love letter to him, and she read it, and she said, I was going to go way back. And he really, he was like, this is obviously not a fix, but it's a step in the right direction. And the thing about it for men is that when you just do a little, they go a long way. And they want, just like anybody in life, wants to be heard, wants to be validated, want to know that they matter. And so, you know, I think that he was far more receptive to her, and you could tell that when they were on camera later. But you know, it just goes to show, and I can say this going on into the eve of my 23rd wedding anniversary, that marriage is an action word. It is a lot of work. It's daily paying attention and being attentive to your significant other, because you can let things in your life get in the way, and then you're disconnected and you are lost. And it's very hard once you go offshore to get back on land. So it was really good. You know, it's like anything else. It's like a plant. If you don't feed it, it's going to die. It's going to die on the vine. So Toya had a good old-fashioned barbecue, which was cute. She had a good old house party with friends, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to have a theme party. You don't have to rent crap. You just bring some good food and have some good drinks, and everybody's sitting around looking cute. So she invited the ladies, and Mariah said that, oh, Mariah, see, Mariah Shady. She said that Mariah's barbecue is like a layover to her next stop at her bad decisions. Now, where is your sisterhood, Mariah? So, finally, all the ladies are there, and Lisa shows up, and Dr. Heavenly is ready to get right into it. So, Toya pulled Dr. Heavenly away, and, you know, I will say this, you know, the title of this episode was "The Devil is Busy." And I will say this, anybody can attest, when you decide that you are trying to do something better for yourself, you're trying to do something different, you get tested right away. And so Dr. Heavenly is saying, when you are trying to change, you are put to a test. And she was put to a test because she's like, she is chomping at the bit about Lisa, and that she has done her wrong. And Curtis thanked Dr. Heavenly for her advice, and Quad sipped her tea or sipped her drink with a little shade all in the eyes. Listen, go back, check it out. When she's sitting there amongst all the ladies, she's just, let me try to recapture the moment. Catch this. Yeah, she was like that. It was funny to watch Quad. She said a whole lot without saying anything. So Dr. Heavenly, bless her heart, she tried to keep it together. She was white knuckling it, but she couldn't take it. And she just told Lisa she was low down and shady. And of course, Bravo showed the receipts. This is not your first rodeo. You know that you're going to get caught up. Bravo's going to show the receipts. So how is it when we see Dr. Heavenly and Lisa talking about the names for the conference, that Lisa didn't tell her that, listen, this is the way it is, and that I've already got the name for the conference. It's my conference, but I just want you to join in. And listen, people who are speakers at a conference do not pay for half. Where do they do that at? People who are guest speakers at the conference, because that's what Lisa's saying, that it was her conference and she was bringing her in, which is totally different than what Mariah was trying to say, to speak up for her friend Lisa, right? So if you are a guest speaker, okay, a lot of times if you are a guest speaker, you may pay a deposit, but if it is a conference, and I'm just saying this from the conferences that I have not been a part of, but have seen, there's part that's in the contract of what's going to be paid for. Whether it's, you know, you're paying for a speaking engagement. So either she's a partner or you have contracted her to be a guest speaker, which is two totally different situations. Lisa was shady. I'm not on Lisa's side with this. It's contradictory. You've been around your husband too long. You're talking outside of your neck, and it's not looking good. So you know, I can't blame her for going off, Dr. Heavenly. But you know, she can't keep her story straight. But guess what, y'all? that's the end of the episode. I'm sure I left some things out. Leave it in the comments. How do you feel about Lisa? How do you feel about Toya? How do you feel about how the situation was handled with the event? Whose side are you on? Let's see. Next weekend is the season finale, and it looks like it is not going to disappoint. So that is all I have for now. Take care of yourself and each other. I'm going to be back for finally Celebrity Apprentice. Talk to you in a minute. Bye.